Baseball season starts tomorrow. I'm going to Cincinnati Reds opening day. One of the greatest traditions in all of sports. If you have the chance to ever go, it's absolutely fantastic. They start with a 2-hour parade that goes across the city, and then baseball's first major league team gets to play at home. It's a fun time here in Cincinnati to celebrate that. I got my Reds reserved parking sign. That's not only fans, it's fans only. Hello, and welcome to Updog Sports Talk on this beautiful March 26, 2025, on the eve of MLB opening day. Now, some of you may say, hey, Matt, did you know that MLB played an entire series already in Tokyo that counts towards season games? Yes, I do know that. That was fun to wake up to at 6 o'clock in the morning and turn on baseball. That was actually the most fantastic thing. But
wait, they did this?
Yeah,
I literally did not know this.
They did this last year also. That's Justin, by the way, those of you who are new to the show. Justin is surprised by all baseball facts because he is not a baseball knower like I am.
Hey, I know some college baseball. UTRGV Vaqueros are having a great year in college baseball right now.
Wow, look at you.
So is the Southland as a whole. College baseball preferable over Major League.
I mean, it's a start. It's further than you were a couple of years ago. Baseball season starts tomorrow. I'm going to Cincinnati Reds opening day. One of the greatest traditions in all of sports. If you have the chance to ever go, it's absolutely fantastic. They start with a 2-hour parade that goes across the city, and then baseball's first major league team gets to play at home every single year. So it's a fun time here in Cincinnati to celebrate that. I got my Reds reserved parking sign. That's not only fans, it's fans only. So those of you trying to make fun of that, I got my little plaque over here. I got a million bobbleheads that I might take down all the books and put up all the bobbleheads instead as a better aesthetic behind me. But yeah, Justin, you want to tell everybody what we are. Oh, we're not going over baseball the entire time. Just FYI, Justin, tell them what we're going over.
All right. Yes, we are now done with baseball. So, sorry if you are a baseball fan, and if you're not, then congratulations, you have gone past that part. Today we are going to be. We took a couple questions from some of our followers. Shout out to Bracket Busters and College Football Commission. Our first question was, what is behind the lack of upsets in March Madness this year, or March lack of madness, I would say. So we'll dive into that, and then College Football Commission asks us, what are some FCS storylines we're looking forward to, and boy, do we have several we're looking at. So we'll be looking into that next after we get done with March lack of madness.
And for those of you just now watching us, here at Updog Sports Talk, we got started because we got tired of mainstream media. So if that is you, welcome. If that is not you, welcome anyway. We got tired of only talking about the 1%, the top 1% of teams, of players, whatever. As you heard Justin say, we go over everything. We go over FCS. I feel like there's not a lot of coverage in FCS. So we are happy to bring that to light, especially with all the, can you call it corruption yet, Justin, in FBS?
Yeah, I would say so. We could go ahead and call it that.
Okay, we're going to call it corruption in the FBS. Led us to covering more of the FCS. And if ESPN can just drop FCS and like True TV, CBS and TNT and all of them, if they were to pick up FCS college football, I think they would get a lot of viewership. I think that'd be fantastic. But we are Updog Sports Talk. Time to jump right in to March lack of madness.
Yeah,
Justin.
what was the so we were asked, what was behind it, NIL, the portal, all of that. And I mean, really, so we'll get to that in a moment, but this year's tournament, like, it really just lacked, any sort of March magic. Like, all of the underdogs in the tournament, like every mid-major team could not hit threes. Like, normally when you see those upset happen, a lot of times it's because, teams get really hot from three. Every time they need an answer, they got a guy coming down the other end and hitting a three to, keep them going and allow them to eventually, put the pressure on the higher seed and pull off the upset. This year, we did not see that happen. We also really saw, the bounces just did not go their way. Like, it felt like every loose ball just happened to land in the hands of, the higher seed. And, obviously we kind of expected the ref piece to it. Obviously late in the game, the refs very quickly wanted to shut down what we saw from Robert Morris against Alabama. Obviously Robert Morris made that game a lot of fun until about, a few minutes left. A couple calls went there against them, and then that was it. But, outside of one guy on Robert Morris, we also really did not see any random March Madness heroes come out of the mix. Last year, we were given Jack Golke. He was dropped into our lives. Obviously we can remember Doug Eater, all those guys like that, like random guys who come off the bench and just prove to be a lightning rod for their teams out of nowhere. Guys who, even for people that follow mid-major basketball, are kind of out of nowhere a little bit. We did not see any of that this year. None of it.
Yeah, and I missed DJ Burns, by the way.
Yeah,
another hero from that tournament. I don't think it's necessarily transfer portal. I think the transfer portal is fine. You get a lot of players with coaches leaving or promised playing time, didn't get a lot of it, and then or just got bullied or whatever. So they need to get out of the program they're in. I think the transfer portal is fine. I think the problem comes into play is NIL. A team like Oakland isn't really going to compete with NIL deals with Alabama or Ohio State didn't make it, but Duke or someone like that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Ohio State, when you're referring to them, you're referring to football because they do not care about basketball.
Not anymore.
No.
But I think when it comes down to it, I think the biggest factor in this tournament was where teams were seated. When we went through our brackets and picked each team, I don't remember the exact amount, but it seemed like a lot of times one of us was saying that the committee really underranked a team or overranked a team. It seemed to be underranking mid-majors, overranking the top teams. So I think the problem again lies with the committee. I think we need we need to find a objective third party that has no affiliation with the sport, is really good at number crunching, and can come up with some sort of system that they can put on a piece of paper blindly. This team is ranked this, and then do it like that, and then then they pop the names out, and they're like, "Oh wow, that." I think we could randomly see at that point, a Texas A&M being that's a bad example, but a Gonzaga being a 16 seed, or I think it would cause funny matchups. I think the randomness I think it would take the stats out of it. I think it would put, like every year we try to predict 3 out of the 4, 11 over 6 seeds, the 1 12 over 5. We have the stats to back up how long that goes back, and it just seems like the committee's always like, you know what, let's put these teams at 11 to create a good upset, and then we'll put these teams at 9 because we need them to win over the 8, and that statistically happens more now. So it all falls on the committee and NIL deals. It's the same stuff that we're complaining about in college football, the committee and NIL deals.
Yeah, and we do need to change how, because part of it is on the committee. I mean, some of it this year was definitely, this brand got rated over this brand because we looked at the brand and just put them there. We saw a lot more of that, a concerning amount of it really this year. But also, I think we need to change up how we're quantifying wins. We've had a few years of this net system now, and we're quickly learning that it can be gamed. Now, we'll get to that a little bit more here in a second, but it was just this year's tournament was very weird, and I think it's kind of disappointing to see. Those TV execs want to convince you that you just want to see all the big brands and that's it, but that's not actually the case because like for example, when St. Peter's went on that run, that was like the most buzz I've heard around March Madness in a long time. Like it came up in every conversation because this little team is on this incredible run.
You know how many people will sit on their couch and specifically watch a team so they lose? My grandpa used to watch Ohio State and would root for them to lose every game. Like, there are people out there that want the underdog to win. There's a lot, I would say an overwhelming majority at this point. But the TV execs don't want you to know that. They don't want you to sit there and root against Duke. They're like, well, this is our baby. This is who we love. We don't like our other children. This is the child we love. So you should love them too, kind of thing. Like, it's starting to get annoying. To the point where like NBA has their issues with corruption and questioning of the integrity of the game. College, everything right now, college seems to be questioning the integrity of the game. I think the most authentic thing right now is baseball. And you can hardly get that televised.
But yeah, I think, we just like this year, there's just no buzz around it. Like I did not hear March Madness brought up in any MLB's conversations. Right. Yes. But yeah, like March Madness did not get brought up at all. Like no one, it was the least exciting tournament we've had
if you're gonna rig something, go to a large corporation, go stand by the water cooler incognito and be like, what would these people talk about while standing here? I don't want to see Duke versus Alabama. I don't want to see Houston versus Tennessee. I don't want to see.
Actually, Houston versus Tennessee would actually be
okay. That would be fine, but like most of the time, 1 seed versus 2 seed, I don't really want to see that late in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, and it's disappointing because like now, like other than maybe like Houston or like Texas Tech, like there aren't really a lot of teams I care about or care to see. I mean, and if there was a mid-major in there, I would make my schedule around making sure I saw that game. Yeah. Now, without anyone really shaking it up and making a mix, it's just like, well, everything's been predictable so far. If it's convenient for me, I might catch a game, but otherwise,
I think that was the longest somebody was perfect in like a really long time.
Yeah, because it was so predictable.
Yeah, because they probably picked almost chalk. It's just annoying. Mid-majors hold the brand of basketball up.
They're what they're what sets March Madness apart from anything else we have in sports.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of people that are forgetting about that.
Did I want to see Virginia be the team that lost to a 15 seed? No, not really, but
16
it happened. It was fantastic. We still talk about it now.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be talked about more because the guy who led the team over them is now the head coach of Virginia.
Yeah. So that's going to get brought up a lot. Lehigh over Xavier, underrated.
Or Duke. Lehigh over Duke.
That one too.
The Florida Gulf Coast run, the St. Peter's run. I mean, and the committee doesn't even do things that are like, they don't put teams in that are pretty, like their resume might be a little bit flawed, but like just for the fun of it. Like back in the day, we used to see like a team with a pretty good resume. Yes, there's some flaws, but they put them in there just for the fun of it. 2006, George Mason was a perfect example. They did not win their conference tournament. They were one of the last teams in the bubble to get in and went on that magical Final Four run. And then when the first four was introduced in 2011, VCU was a similar way. A lot of people questioned them being included in the tournament, and then they went on an incredible Final Four run.
Yeah, and then like maybe we're spending a lot of time on this that we don't need to be spending, but it's just it's tough to have the same conversation over and over again, Justin. I don't know if other people are the same way, but like I am done complaining about some committee that screwed something up, and then on top of that, complaining about.
Let's talk about a couple other things college basketball here. That being said, I know you said the portal was not, a huge issue, which in itself is not. But at the same time, we have got to figure out some restrictions with it.
When you pair it with NIL,
being paid.
When you pair it with NIL, it makes it difficult. If there was a maximum NIL, I think that ceiling needs to be lowered a lot.
Mm-hmm. Which that is coming, and I think at some point we'll have to kind of wait and see how it goes. But there was, I guess, the article that kind of came out today that apparently the SEC is just now realizing that because they have football and the Big East doesn't, the Big East is about to have a huge advantage. That was something else, but
yeah.
We that would be a whole episode. We could talk about that, but we do need like a cap around it, which that is coming. It sounds like now. Obviously, we'll see what happens because now that the SEC just learned this. But at the same time, we also need like a restriction. If they're getting paid, there's something tying them there. They're no longer just an average college student. The portal made sense to me because you're an average college student. A regular college student could transfer at any point. Players could transfer at any point. That made sense to me.
It also makes sense. It also makes sense for the kids that their coach left, or like I can't think of a thing off the top of my head, but like back to the Jonathan Cooper, Richie Incognito fight. If that happened in college, I would understand one of the two of them, probably Cooper, transferring out. Something like that. Yeah. I can see the portal being used as. I can see you were a 4-star recruit, and then you were told, yeah, you will be, if you're not in the starting lineup as a freshman, you'll be in the starting lineup as a sophomore. But then you get no playing time as a freshman. You're not even redshirted. And then you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be here. Like, you just wasted a year of my life. Like, I can understand that as well.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, transfers should also be allowed. But, like, there's a middle ground we need to find here because at the same time, 2 days after the portal being open, there's like 1,200 players in the portal right now. Like, you could fill 85 teams out of the players that are in the portal right now.
Yeah.
That is unhealthy as well. And, you get like a situation where college basketball almost becomes like the anti-NBA. The NBA struggles a lot because, they don't struggle with player recognition. People know a lot of the players. They do a good job, marketing the players. But the problem is there's just not a whole lot tying people to the teams.
Yeah.
And I think
I would agree with that.
College basketball is becoming the opposite, where it's people are tied to the teams, but they have no clue who the players are. Because they're all moving around every year. No one knows what their team looks like.
I do think the transfer portal can be used for good for mid-majors. Like a team, or like West Virginia, for example. West Virginia was on the bubble. They should have gotten in. Maybe you add another big man. Maybe you add another shooter. Now you're very well into the tournament next year. But like maybe that coach, he just got there, but maybe like another coach leaves and it has like they have Wes Miller. Let's say Wes Miller leaves. There's a bunch of 5-stars on UC's bench. They're probably going to transfer regardless if he leaves or not. But like they would have a good time being at a mid-major, bringing them up. But it goes back to the whole mid-major thing. Like mid-majors lift this league up.
Yeah, I agree. And that brings us to our last college basketball piece here, which is, the scheduling is a problem. They created this net system, and the power conferences quickly figured out how to rig this thing. They were going to either play each other or, when they schedule mid-major programs, they're going to schedule the ones that are traditionally at the bottom so that they're not threatened at all. They're looking at teams that probably hover around 250 to 350 in the rankings. Like that is what they're looking to schedule. And meanwhile, they're not allowing these better teams like, UC Irvine's a threat every year. So hardly anyone wants to schedule them. UC San Diego couldn't get a single power conference team on their schedule this year. And stuff like that, where, they don't get to schedule those games. And then they're like, oh, well, guess what? You need to be perfect because you didn't play a tough enough schedule. Well, play us. Oh, not us. We're not playing you. That's the whole argument that we keep seeing. And it's like, then you hear people on big media go, well, if UC Irvine didn't have those 3 Q3 losses, they would have made the tournament. It's like, okay, so UC Irvine needed to be 29-2 to make the tournament.
Yeah, I think and then there's like 14 lost teams making the tournament, and it doesn't make sense. It's like
Texas lost 15 games.
15 games, sorry. Texas didn't belong in the tournament. UNC, I could make an argument that they didn't belong in the tournament. There's a few others.
Ohio State was freaking third off the cutoff line when they said that on the show, like ahead of UC Irvine, when Ohio State hardly even won half their games. That's embarrassing.
I think there needs to be like a minimum. I think Ohio State had some good wins, but it's like the committee turns a blind eye to the losses. It's like, oh, you're in the Big Ten. Okay, well now you're automatically in it, and then we're just gonna sift through this thing, and then if you make it, if you make it, if you don't, you don't. Like, there's no reason 14 SEC teams should have made the tournament.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
I mean, it was a historical year, but like we can't have Texas just ride the coattails of the league and get into the tournament. That was a waste of a spot. Even though it was very funny that led to Xavier beating them and then them taking Xavier's coach as a response.
Yeah, that was
that was very funny around us locally. But like there needs to be a greater reward for road wins, first of all. Winning on the road is very difficult. UC Irvine, I keep going back to this team because they were so good and they got really screwed over by this. UC Irvine set an NCAA record for road wins this year. And that was something that no big media person ever talked about. No, I think winning on the road in this sport is very tough.
It is very tough.
There needs to be a greater reward for it.
Yeah, and back in the day, it used to be, it is hard to win those away games. That used to be the mantra of the sport. You go into somebody else's house, it's hard to get a win there. Now it's like, meh. All right, now it doesn't matter what we do in the regular season. We're automatically going to get in.
Yeah. I mean, it makes power conference basketball hard to watch because it's like, okay, well, if these teams win just over half their games, they're going to get in. So let me go and turn my attention to a team that is fighting for their spot.
Yeah. Shifting away from the negativity and moving on to something a little happier. Justin, guess what this year is?
This is it. This is the year our UTRGV Vaqueros are finally beginning football.
It's the inaugural season. The inaugural season of UTRGV football. We are super excited. What is it? August 31st, they play a D2 school.
Yeah, August 30th. Saturday, August 30th, they open play against Sol Ross State, the Lobos.
Yeah. I wanted to make that game. I think that would have been not only huge for our show in that area, but also a great experience for us. How many chances do we get as human beings to go to an inaugural season of a team?
Hardly ever.
Maybe one in a lifetime.
Now, to be fair, we will get our opportunity in 2026 because Chicago State's bringing football, and that will be a lot closer.
I don't know. I know exactly where Chicago State is. I don't know if I really want to be going to that campus. I'll be honest with you.
True.
I know what part of town that is. That's not a part of town that you want to be in.
Yeah,
but
it is very weird.
UTRGV football, we're super excited for you. We've been following since the original announcement. Justin, we both have pullovers with UTRGV. Hold it up for us.
Yeah, I'm rocking it tonight.
Yeah. That being said, there are a list of coaches.
Hey, hang on. There is one weird quirk. So they had their schedule completed a while ago, and then one of the teams they had scheduled folded their football program just weeks ago. So there is one more game that they can still schedule. We'll see.
What if they chose Cincinnati?
Cincinnati's schedule's full, unfortunately. I would like the dream scenario would be for them to randomly play at the Dayton Flyers.
Or Xavier decides to have a football team and make an FCS and UGR. Yeah, that would be hilarious.
Man, they're not going to form a football team in 5 months.
No, but shifting over, there's a handful of coaches that are bringing notoriety to some HBCUs, and we're super excited. The first one on our list.
Let me give it a little bit of background here first, because the MEAC for a long time, outside of NC Central and South Carolina State, it's been a little bit of a struggle, and I don't think there's been that great of a football following we've seen in the MEAC lately. I remember seeing there was an account that was trying to collect all the podcasts that cover different FCS teams and stuff, and there was next to no MEAC podcast for covering football. That was disappointing to see. I was like, okay, we need this league covered more. And then this offseason hit, and we've got two guys who are going to add a lot of juice to this league. Matt,
the first one. One of my favorite players growing up, regardless of what he did off the field, he's learned his mistakes. Let's move on from that. Michael Vick heads home to Virginia to be the Norfolk State head coach. Now, Michael Vick doesn't have a whole lot of coaching history. I think he coached for some random league in 2019, but he's a smart cookie when it comes to football. So I think he can build up a program. I think it's going to be, I think they're going to need a little bit of patience because he has to figure out now recruiting, which is way different. But I'm excited to see Michael Vick on the sidelines. I think it's a great opportunity. And back in his home state of Virginia, I think that'll do well.
I think it's interesting just because, I wonder if this current way that college football is, has created more of a window for a guy who may not be as experienced coaching to step in and become a head coach. Because a lot of what you're trying to do now is like head coaches are mostly with recruiting. Obviously they have their staff that they lead. They hire that staff and stuff. And I think he's done a great job with the people he's brought on. And like you're doing that, and obviously like he's already attracting more attention to Norfolk State than we've had a long time. Like, if you're not going FBS, if you're even borderline, like you might be able to go FBS, but it's, you might be riding a bench or, like you're not looking at the programs you want to see. Like, kids in Virginia have the opportunity to stay home and be coached by Michael Vick.
Yeah.
That is huge.
And well, you alluded to it a little bit, but kind of skipped over it. The fact that he's getting eyes on the program is huge. Just him being there, his presence is bringing in a bunch of news networks, bunch of boosters are trying to come into the program. Michael Vick's presence is already building this program up, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's going to be a little bit before he figures out coaching. I didn't see his staff, so I don't know if he has good play callers on there, but we'll see how he adapts to the play calling and the coaching of these kids. But Justin, did you know in 2010 when Michael Vick came back in Philly, he threw a 92 yard, 93 yard bomb to the next guy on our list, Deshaun
Jackson.
He became the Delaware State head coach. And usually when you think of Delaware, anything, you think of Joe Flacco at Delaware Blue Hens. Well, now Delaware State is on the map. Deshaun Jackson doing the same thing as Michael Vick. And unlike Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson has a little bit of a coaching history. Became an assistant head coach at a high school in Long Beach, California. And he's a big advocate for HBCUs. Now, we saw Deion Sanders grab a 5-star Travis Hunter and brought him to an HBCU. I think that was the start of something big. I think Deshaun Jackson doing this is going to be, I think you're going to see a lot of players starting to go to HBCU to get programs going. One form of emphasis that Jackson wants to do is he wants to bring new energy and leadership to the football program by building a strong program that's focused on academic excellence and discipline, and making sure that all these players leave with a 4-year degree. So I think that's fantastic. Like, this is the definition of what you want as a head coach. Like, you want a coach to come in there, care about the players, care about their futures, but also aim for success on the field. And I think that's huge for Delaware State.
Yeah, and this is a program that needs it. It's been let's just say a rough road for them. Delaware State has they've struggled a lot. Last year I was kind of hoping, they kind of looked a little bit improved early on, and then it fell off for them pretty quickly. They have, I think their last time having a winning record was a 6-5 season in 2012. Their Wikipedia page only goes up to 2019. Someone stopped paying attention to it after 2020. So that's that's always the interesting thing when you look at HBC is like they are so undercovered that sometimes just finding basic information about these programs is difficult. And, that's going to be one thing that you won't you won't see well Deshaun Jackson's there because everyone will be following what this team is doing. And it is exciting to see the buzz around the program. Now that is an unintentional pun because Delaware State is the Hornets. But yeah, I feel like Deshaun Jackson was, better than what I could have imagined and what Delaware State could have hired. And it's just going to be so exciting to see what he does for this program. Like he is bringing a lot of name recognition and just connections to bring in better recruits. And he's been there, he's done that. Like he'll know how to develop guys as well. Yep. And I think we'll see a very different looking team on that football field when they take the field on. By the way, this is a Thursday game, so a nice window there to catch them. They play the in-state Delaware Blue Hens on Thursday, August 28th.
That'll be a good game. What I'm excited for is the next team on our list. Not only was this team
hang on. We need to advertise one more game here. November 1st is when Delaware State plays Norfolk State.
That'll be a really good game. That should be nationally televised.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they've already committed it to ESPN Plus, but you never know.
Yeah. The next team on our list that hired a coach actually almost hired the first coach on our list. They were pretty close to hiring Michael Vick, but instead they go with the big-brained Brennan Marion. And if you know anything about him, he has what's called a go-go offense. For those of you who don't know what a go-go offense is, it blends old-school triple option offense with a modern spread concept. Justin, this offense is going to be electric.
Yeah, they were so much. He made UNLV so much fun. And in general, like Sacramento State is a program that I don't know what exactly lit under them lately, but Sacramento State is trying to position themselves for big moves. They want to see their program advance. They want to get to the FBS level in football. They want to continue to improve their basketball program. There's upgrades to the football stadium coming. There's upgrades to the basketball stadium coming. They were planning to do all of this, and then they were like, okay, who is one of the most innovative, most exciting coaches we could get on the market? Brendan Marion. We're bringing this guy in. He made some great hires on his coaching staff, and they are just rocking it recruiting wise right now. Their 2026 class is shaping up to be special, right? The last I saw, this class for Sacramento State was ranked ahead of Alabama's class. Obviously subject to change. We'll see that change, but still, it goes to show the buzz. Oh my gosh, I did that again with another Hornets team. It goes to show like the buzz they're making.
Yeah, I'm excited for this season for FCS. Not only do we have,
and by the way, so Sacramento State guess who they're opening the season against?
Montana.
Close.
Montana State.
South Dakota State.
Okay.
Yeah. So in December, they decided, okay, give us the biggest challenge we could possibly find in FCS to open the season. Okay, South Dakota State's available. We're going to go to their place. We're going to play them.
And that brings me to my point about the whole thing. Not only do we have last season's storylines carrying over to this upcoming season, we have some pretty good storylines for these teams as well. So to watch these teams in the mix is fantastic. But Justin, the Patriot League adds one more.
Yeah. So the Patriot League really for like a few years there was looking pretty good. Last year was such a down year. Only getting one team to the playoffs, and it was at like an unseeded team because the league in general really struggled and fell off a little bit last year. But we're going to see the strength return because they are adding the Richmond Spiders. Richmond was one of the best teams in the CAA. They're going to immediately add a top tier team, and probably, if we see one of the other teams in the Patriot League have another good year, we'll likely see this league return to multiple bids again.
You know what's funny? Other than Richmond, I don't think I've seen a school with spiders as their name. I think it's underrated.
Yeah, no. I mean, Richmond does a good job of that. I like that they have that unique moniker.
Yeah, and the fact that everything they can do with their uniforms is if they get a little funding is, I think they could do some cool concepts with that.
Yeah,
you could have like a Spider-Man night. I think that would be dope. But Richmond, they're going to be a team I'm going to watch because I hate spiders in real life, but I think that's a dope football name.
Yeah.
But Justin, you know who else has a dope football name?
The Ivy League.
Every team in the Ivy League.
This was. Go ahead.
I was going to say the Ivy League. I don't think Yale Cougars, right?
No, Yale Bulldogs. Come on, Matt. These programs are the institution of college football.
Well, until now, Justin, they have not competed in FCS playoff contention. So guess what? Now we get to learn their team names.
Yeah, they've been, they've sat out from FCS playoffs for a very long time. But they made a huge announcement. Next year is when they are finally going to rejoin the rest of the league, because for a long time, it was very strange to follow the Ivy League because it was they started their season later, and then they had a few nice weeknight games, which were fun to see, and then their season, they would get to the end, decide a conference champion, and that was it. Their season was over. So it's really great to see these teams rejoin everyone else and really get to show what they could do. And we're going to get to see them play in unique areas because of this. Last year, Princeton played Mercer on the road. It was a very unique game because we hardly ever see an Ivy League team go down south. Well, if they're in the FCS playoffs, we're going to get to see that a lot more. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm very excited to see what these teams do in the playoffs, and then also just what really cool matchups are going to come from it.
Yeah. I think the Ivy League joining the playoffs, I mean, it seems like Yale wasn't, or Dartmouth was the powerhouse this year.
It actually was Harvard that won the league.
But Dartmouth only
Dartmouth was on the rise too. Harvard, technically it was a tie. So Harvard, Dartmouth, and Columbia all tied for the conference championship.
Can you imagine if any three of those teams made it in the playoffs, how differently the FCS playoffs would have looked?
Yeah. I mean, you can imagine a few different scenarios. For one, there's multiple different angles you can look at it. You could get the incredible branding of Harvard playing at Montana, two of the biggest FCS brands facing off. Or you get a unique circumstance, let's say Columbia ended with a tiebreaker. Columbia hadn't won a share of a league title since, I think it was the 1960s. How historic it would be for them to get that and then be in the playoffs. So you get multiple angles there of how exciting that would be. And that's just using this year's example.
Yeah. Well, do you think that it would affect Southland and SoCon sending teams to the playoffs?
That is true. There is one less spot, but in the end, though, the SoCon and Southland, I think two very proud conferences. They have good programs within them, but last year was a huge disappointment because we saw both conferences only put one team in the playoffs. This is not what's expected. This is not what especially in the SoCon. Like the SoCon has so much history. We know like Appalachian State, Georgia Southern, programs like that came from this conference. And to only get one bid was just insulting. But they ended up beating each other up and took themselves out of the race for the second bid. I think this year we're going to see how their schedule pans out. I think I saw a few teams may have gone the route of going an easier non-conference schedule. That could work. And then in the Southland, it's going to be the opposite. They have a lot of teams with the opportunity to prove themselves. It may be on the road. There's a lot of teams that I think could be solid that have to face some really tough road tests within FCS and a lot of FBS teams, but it's going to be interesting to see. I'm really rooting for both these leagues to finally get multiple teams in again because they're good leagues. They play a very fun style of football there. They just, there's just a few teams they got to get over the hump.
Yeah. Do we do have to wrap this section up with bad news.
Maybe before we get to bad news, one thing I want to mention also is just like what surprise teams we're going to get because like this past year, Abilene Christian came out of nowhere. We saw stuff like that. I can't wait to see who comes out of nowhere and just surprises us. Now, the topic at hand, we have a last ride.
The St. Francis Red Flashes will play one more season in FCS before dropping down to not Division II, but Division III football, leaving behind rivals Central Connecticut and Duquesne. Justin.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
This is where financials, I guess, come into play. But also, I worry about these teams because, I wonder, because usually when this happens, they have someone on their board who really wants to just drop down or drop football. They want to give up on the whole thing. And then they become very easily convinced because someone presents some numbers with really only that angle, like, hey, look at how much money we're going to save by dropping to Division III. And there's never enough consideration to what damage does this do to the brand and awareness of our program. This is especially a college where, like, I think I saw a stat. It was 40% of their enrollment are student athletes. And you are going to take this big of a hit. I'm worried about the whole future of the college, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, their basketball team just technically made the final or the first four.
Yeah. I mean, literally, like just a little over a week ago, they were at an absolute high because they're making the NCAA tournament. And then a week later is the worst day of the lives of any of their fans and former students.
Yeah,
and in football, they beat Kent State this year.
I know some people who went to Cal Penn, Pennsylvania West, as it's sometimes called. And they're Division II. I expected St. Francis to try to drop down to be like rivals with someone in state, and I figured that would have been a good rivalry. Nope, they're dropping even further down. I can't even tell you any D3 teams.
Yeah. It's a sad day.
Yeah.
But, we're going to have to try to watch St. Francis as much as we can this year because it's their last ride at this level.
Yep. Well, on that sad note, baseball season starts back up tomorrow, as I said at the beginning of the episode. One takeaway that I had was spring training. And Justin, I know you don't know anything about any of this, but they implemented a replay system for only during spring training for players. If they go like this on their helmet or on their hat, they can have the umpire take another look, and then everybody just turns their heads to the big screen and everybody watches the replay together. It's no like referees under a hood or anything like that. Like they just put headphones on and watch the big board. And I like it. I think it's a great way to keep umpires honest. It was used a lot, and I want to see that in MLB. I don't necessarily like the direction of everything in MLB going for MLB right now, but a replay system real time on crucial strike three calls, that could do a lot for the sport. So I'm excited to see that. Won't be this year, coming soon, I guess. I'm going to opening day tomorrow. I can't wait. I will put stuff out on social media about it. Justin, any last minute thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm going to get some baseball in myself here in a few weeks. I'll be in Myrtle Beach, so going to catch the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers in action.
There you go.
They just pulled off a win over number 2 Clemson last night, so looking pretty good.
Yeah. I know we didn't plan for this, but favorite candy?
I feel like we've asked this one before. Okay, so what's my favorite candy at this current point? You know what? I don't know if it's my favorite candy, but let's just talk about with being the Easter season. How good are Cadbury cream eggs?
They're okay. I'd rather have Reese's peanut butter eggs. I think you get more bang for your buck. I personally am a big sweet tart fan. I like the chewy ones because they actually got rid of my actual favorite candy. It was Shockers back in the day, Sweet Tart Sours, as they would be known later, and I think Sweet Tart Extreme, like way back in the day. I miss those. So to the makers of Sweet Tarts, please bring them back. So yeah, that is our show. Follow us at Updog Sports Talk on all social media. X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, TikTok. Did I say Instagram?
I think you did.
Okay. Follow us at
Updog.
Follow us at Updog Sports Talk on all of that. Also, follow us on either Podbean, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. There's one more. I don't know. Wherever you find your podcast, we're at. And then subscribe, comment. Tell us who you're looking forward to, FCS. Tell us your thoughts on March Madness, lack thereof. So yeah, until next time, catch you later.